Jim Rohn, the man many consider to be America's foremost business philosopher, has been sharing his success philosophies and principles for almost 40 years with more than 6,000 audiences and over 4 million people worldwide. Jim is the recipient of the coveted CPAE Award from the National Speakers Association for Excellence in Speaking, and is the author of over 25 books, audio, and video programs. Jim Rohn has been hailed over the years as one of the most influential thinkers of our time, and has helped to motivate and train an entire generation of personal development trainers, as well as hundreds of executives from America's top corporations. Jim Rohn has been described as everything from a master motivator by Mark Victor Hansen, a national treasure by Vic Conant, one of the most profound thinkers and mind-expanding individuals of our time by Les Brown, one of the most articulate, powerful, thought-provoking speakers ever seen by Harvey Mackay, and an extraordinary human being and mentor by Anthony Robbins. So now, let the man who has influenced so many help you to invent your future. Mr. Jim Rohn.
Our interviewer for this program is Peter Lowe. Peter is known as an entrepreneurial genius, having taken a company from zero sales to over $10 million in annual sales. From U.S. presidents to Fortune 500 CEOs, from Super Bowl-winning coaches to Pulitzer Prize-winning authors, Peter has interviewed and studied the success strategies of the top achievers of the world. Please join us now for Conversations with Jim Rohn.
Jim, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you. You're a phenomenal person in the field of teaching people how to achieve success. You've been doing it for many decades, and you have a very unique story on how you got started in all of this. Can you share that with us, please?
Sure, I can. I grew up in Idaho, farm country, a little small village, southwest corner of Idaho. My father still lives on the old homestead where I grew up. Overlooking the Snake River. He'll be 92 his next birthday, and he still hasn't retired. I went to high school, graduated, went to college 1 year. Foolishly, halfway through my second year, I decided I was smart enough and quit, got me a job, went to work. A little while later, got married, started a family, and out there working hard, doing what I thought was the best I could. But year by year, I kept falling a little further behind, purchasing more than I could pay for on time. The creditors starting to call once in a while saying, hey, you told us the check was in the mail. I'm getting embarrassed by it all, but didn't really know what to do. By the time I reached age 25, I got pennies in my pocket. I got nothing in the bank. Behind on my big mouth promises to my family, not feeling good about myself, and wondering what could I do to make my life better. I thought about going back to school, but with a family, tough decision. I thought, gosh, if I had a business of my own, that would do it, but no money. And then good fortune came my way. Difficult sometimes to explain good fortune, why something remarkable happens at a particular time. But my good fortune was, at age 25, I met a very wealthy man. His name was Mr. Schoaf, Mr. Earl Schoaf. A friend of mine had gone to work for him, and he started telling me about this man. He said, you got to meet this man. He's rich, but he's easy to talk to. And he's got a remarkable philosophy of life. And he kept going on, and I thought, well, I got to meet this man. So I had a chance a little later to meet this man, Mr. Schoaf, and I was impressed. He was rich, obviously, but he was easy to talk to. Within a few minutes, I'm dazzled. And I said, I'd give anything if I could be like that, rich and easy to talk to. What would that take? And then I thought, if I could just get around somebody like him, and if he would teach me and coach me, I would learn it all. And that was my good fortune. A little while later, this rich man hired me, gave me a job. I went to work for him, and I spent 5 years in his employ. And unfortunately, he died at the end of that 5 years, age 49. But I got to spend 5 years with this wealthy man, his last 5 of his life, first 5 years of my new life. And my dream came true. He coached me, taught me the books to read. He taught me the disciplines. He taught me the skills. He taught me some major changes I needed to make in my language and personality. And the things he shared with me during that 5 years revolutionized my life, changed my income, changed my bank account, changed my future. I've never been the same. By the time I was 31, I was a millionaire. And that was just my money. What was really valuable was the skills and the disciplines. Then, about 30-plus years ago, I was living in Beverly Hills. A friend of mine one day said, "Jim, you've got to come and tell your story to my service club." He belonged to the Rotary Club. He said, "It just occurred to me, I know your story. A boy from the farms of Idaho, now living in Beverly Hills." He said, "If I arranged it, would you come and talk at our breakfast meeting?" And I said, "Sure." So he arranged it. I went and made a presentation, and they liked it. By the time the day was finished, my phone rang 2 more times. Other clubs calling, saying, "Would you come and tell us that story?" So before long, I was spending a piece of my business time giving these breakfast talks and luncheon talks. And then one day, a man who heard my talk about 3 times said, "Would you come and talk to my management and salespeople?" And he said, "If you would, I'd be happy to pay you." And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be something? Tell my story and get paid. So he said, "I'd be glad to." He arranged it. I went and shared my story, got paid. And little did I know another fortune was waiting for me to share my story. And now it's turned into a business. I'm primarily an entrepreneur, but this now is one of my most flourishing businesses, and it takes me around the world and happily to some of your seminars.
Well, you amaze me when I talk to you about your travel schedule. It sounds like you're in all the continents all the time. How do you ever do it all?
I love to do it. This summer I was back in Israel for the 2nd time. 3 languages translated in my seminar in Israel, a couple of thousand people. Russian, 400,000 Russian immigrants now in Israel. Hebrew and Arabic, which means times are really changing. I was in Prague. I was there last year. 3 languages translated in Prague, Polish, Hungarian, and Czech. That was exciting, to walk the streets of old Prague where the Nazis came in the 40s. Now liberty and freedom and free enterprise flourishing in Czechoslovakia. My first visit this year to Cologne, Germany. That was exciting. My first visit to Holland, Rotterdam. Had a chance to go back to Lisbon, Portugal. My largest seminar in Europe this year was Milan, Italy, 4,000 people. Had a chance to go back to London. I've been there a few times over the years. I just recently returned from Australia, lecturing in 8 cities in Australia. New Zealand recently, Hong Kong. Hopefully before the year is out, South America, Argentina, Venezuela, Colombia. I've lectured in Tokyo and Taiwan and South Africa and many places around the world. I thoroughly enjoy it.
That's tremendous. And I think you've been in this field now for 33 years. Is that right?
That's right.
And one of the things that I always look for in people who are successful is not people who are successful for 1 year or 2 years, but people who really have long-lasting success. Because there's so many people who learn to be successful and then they lose it. And how have you been able to endure all these 33 years so successfully?
Well, I get that question. Doesn't it get old after a while? But it really doesn't. I've got plenty of other business projects to work on. I really don't need to lecture. But the ideas that I share with people these days so dramatically affected my own life back in those early days that I never get tired of sharing the story and the principles. The things that changed my income, my bank account, my outlook on life, got me setting goals, building a library, working on disciplines that I never thought I could master, that I did. In sharing all those ideas with people, then getting the letters and the phone calls. When I travel around the world, people still come up and say, 5 years ago, I attended your seminar and here's what's happened. A lady showed me the other day in Australia notes she had taken 14 years ago. She said, "I still use these notes in working in my business. Here's what happened to my relationship with my family." Those letters, those phone calls, those personal testimonials for me, that's what I live for. I don't need the money. I take the money, but I don't need the money. But I do need that joy that comes from people saying, "What you said was valuable for me, and thank you very much for sharing." That's heavyweight stuff. You can't buy it with money.
Well, that's super. Well, I once interviewed Senator Teddy Kennedy, and I asked him, I said, "What is the secret to your success?" And without batting an eye, he said, "Perseverance." And I'm sure you know the quote of Benjamin Disraeli where he said the secret to success is constancy of purpose. And you're somebody who has really exemplified perseverance and constancy of purpose. What would you say to somebody who says, I don't feel like I can persevere. I don't really seem to have a deep down purpose that I can hone in on and stay with for decades to come?
Well, it has to be from a variety of sources. You've got to have family goals. You've got to have personal goals. Worthy projects you would like to support. It's not just income goals. It's not to have a home and a nice car and clothes to wear. It's the full variety of things. If you can develop an appetite for all of that. I call them reasons. Reasons make the difference. If you have enough reasons, you can do spectacular things. And there's an ancient script that says, without a vision, we die. Unless we can see something to go for. That's why in my leadership series, I spend about an hour and a half on a goals workshop. And it's called Designing the Next 10 Years. And if I can get people caught up in thinking about where they would like to go, who they would like to meet, the kind of income they would like to have, the kind of money they would like to share, the kind of skills they would like to develop, the influence they would like to have, the reputation they would like to build. Would you like to be an entrepreneur? Would you like to have a masterful management career? Would you like to be a better parent? What kind of influence would you like to have on the people around you? Would you like to influence the industry you're in? There's a whole wide range of things that we need not lack for appetite of things to accomplish. And that's called the promise of the future. And without that promise, life becomes a little less doesn't become worth living. If the promise is clear, we will pay the disciplines, we'll pay the price, we'll read the books, we'll take the classes, we'll learn the skills. So that's one of the first things, is to articulate the promise. Big job parents have these days is getting kids to see the promise of the future, the possibilities, the opportunities.
Now, can I ask you, what is the promise of the future for your life, Jim?
Well, to write a lot more books, see a lot more places, talk to a lot more people, enjoy my family. I've got 2 grandkids. Mm-hmm. Nathaniel is 8 and Natalie is 6.5, and I have 2 daughters. I have some very special friends I want to spend a lot of time with. My father's my business partner at age 91. But in my entrepreneurial career, I've got a lot of things I want to accomplish. Some products I want to develop, some places I want to go. But in my speaking career, I just want to reach everyone I can. Now I'm getting interested in kids. I've got a video for teenagers called 3 Keys to Greatness. And I'd like to develop a lot more products for teenagers, home study courses on personal development, financial planning, setting goals. Those are some of my goals for the future. They keep me going.
Now, one of your products I think is so phenomenal is your book, The Treasury of Quotes. Comes with beautiful gold foil printing on the cover. And what would you say are some of the quotes that have really impacted your life?
Well, one that I got from my mentor, Mr. Schoaf, when I used to cross my fingers and say, I sure hope things will change for me. And he said, Mr. Rohn, for things to change for you, you've got to change. I used to hope the economy would change, or my boss would change and become more benevolent. I used to hope that circumstances would change, the difficulties would go away. But he said things aren't going to change. It's going to be like it's always been. But if you will change, everything will change for you. If you'll get better, everything will get better for you. That sort of is the centerpiece of the philosophy I've been trying to teach all these years. And I think that's one of the best quotes. It's a promise he gave me. If you will change, everything will change for you. But if you won't change, the next 5 years will probably be just about like the last 5. But anytime you want to, you can learn from the last 5 and make the next 5 years of your life totally different from the last 5 if you'll make some little, simple, beginning changes for your health, for your income, being more valuable in the marketplace, things you want for yourself and for your family, and all the rest.
So let's say I have a bad habit that I want to change. How do I do that?
Small pieces at a time. best is to substitute a poor habit with a good habit. If you've got some bad habits as far as your health is concerned, if you start some good ones. My mama taught an apple a day. And my father will be 92, he's never been ill. I've never been ill. My children, my grandchildren. Mama taught us so well those simple, basic, good habits of good health that we've followed all these years. And the payoff is extraordinary. So maybe you've got something like smoking maybe that you shouldn't do. But rather than just trying to quit that, what if you started something positive and you got so inspired about doing that inspired you then to start changing something that was negative?
Now, you're somebody who obviously has researched success. You philosophize on business and on people's lives, and you reflect on life. How would you define success? What does it really mean to be successful?
For me, success is simply the steady progress toward predetermined goals. Success is not a, quote, stereotype. That you got to live in a certain home, drive a certain car, earn certain money, have money in the bank. That's really not success. If a man says to me, hey, I'm soon going to cash it all in, I'm heading for the mountains, I'm going to live off the land, I'm going to feed the squirrels the rest of my life, and if he cashes it in and goes and does that, to me, he's a smashing success. We might not call him, quote, successful if we looked at his life or his lifestyle. But if he is enjoying the product of his own dreams or is making progress in that direction, to me, he is successful. Success is looking at your own desires, looking at your own possibilities, and then stretching yourself and seeing if you can become all that you can become, earn all that you can earn, share all that you can share, make steady progress in that direction. To me, that's success.
Well, that's great. Now, you've traveled all over the world like we've talked about. As Americans, what are some of the lessons we could learn from people in other cultures concerning life and achieving true success in life?
Well, a lot of the immigrants now that come to America from other countries have taught us some great lessons. They're some of the best students in school. The Russians that came to Israel, I'm telling you, they're now the leaders in industry. They are so grateful for liberty and freedom and for a chance. They need no guarantees. They don't need to be taken care of. All they need is an open door, a ladder to climb, a place to start, somebody to give them a chance, and away they go. And I think we've had it so easy in America for so long that we have lost that sharp edge. And who knows, all the shake-up these last few years, the walls have come tumbling down. But in America, we need a whole new sense of personal drive, personal ambition, that will take whatever we got and see what we can make out of it. If it's pennies, we start with pennies. If it's painful, you start painful. You know, if you're ill, you start ill. If you don't have much of a chance, you just start with not much of a chance, but see what you can make of it. And I think some of the people in other countries now where freedom is finally intact, the walls have come down, that are starting that journey, could teach us a lot about taking what we've got, making something valuable out of it, rather than expecting someone to give us something.
Well, Zig Ziglar cites a study that shows that legal immigrants to America are 4 times more likely to become millionaires than native-born Americans. And I shared with you earlier how I grew up in India. I'm really very grateful for that opportunity because it really underscores to me the tremendous opportunities that we have in America. For the person who's always lived in America and maybe never seen anything different, what can you say to them to really help them appreciate and be grateful for the tremendous opportunities they have?
We need to be reminded, that's what seminars are for, like you're putting on. Vitally important that people come and hear the message one more time and be reminded of all of the opportunity that's available. No country in the last 6,000 years of written history has been such a depository of the gifts from the rest of the world like America. For 200 years, the ethnic streams that have flowed into America have brought their gifts with them. The gift of liberty and the gift of freedom, the gift of politics, the gift of religion, the gift of the work ethic, the gift of music, the gift of healing, the gift of medicine, the gift of inventions, the arts, the dance, all the stuff that has been brought here over the last 200 years from all of the rest of the countries of the world. Never has one country been such a depository of so many gifts from the rest of the world in one place. There's been nothing like it in 6,000 years. And not to appreciate it or to develop a cynical attitude about it because it came from such a diversity of ethnic streams would be such a great mistake. If there's books provided that you don't read, classes provided that you don't take, music provided that you don't listen to, ideas provided that you ignore, places to go of learning that you could find contact with ideas that could change your life and never take advantage of it. That's the big tragedy, to have so much brought to your fingertips and not to be excited about it. But that's what these seminars are for. That's what books are for. That's what messages like this are for, is to remind people of what all is available. Let us not be cynical, but let us be thankful and reach out and appropriate what's available and let it affect our lives now and in the future.
Mm-hmm. You'd be interested to know, 3 or 4 weeks ago I was up in Canada, and I was on an airplane, and I sat beside a businessman, and he said that he had been really impacted by you. And he said that you had said something about the story of Job that had really made an impact in his life. What exactly do you tell people about Job?
Well, first I tell them that I find the Bible very fascinating. I'm an amateur when it comes to the Bible, but I am fascinated by the story. God and Satan were visiting one day and made this deal about taking this wall of safety down from around Job. And Satan said, if you'll do that, I promise you very shortly, your great friend Job will curse you. God said, no way. So the wager is on, and God takes the wall down according to the terms of the wager. And when he does, Satan does one of his all-time famous numbers. First took his family, blow 1. Second took his wealth, blow 2. Third took his health, blow 3. And that's about enough. And finally his wife comes along when he's sitting in the ashes scraping his sores with a rock and says, Job, looks like your friend God's long gone. You might as well curse him and die. And Satan said to God, here's where it happens. And God says, well, he hasn't talked yet. And while they both listen, Job says, never, no matter what happens, would I curse my friend God. And God said, I knew it. And picked up the wager, whatever it was, my imagination. But anyway, then God made it up to Job. And when you play those kind of games, you do have to make it up. And according to the story, he multiplied 2 times what he had before. Twice the family, twice the wealth, twice the health, and became a very famous man in the known world in those days. But I just find it interesting and fascinating. I used to find things frustrating, but I've learned a little key is to try to turn frustration into fascination. And if you try hard, you can do it. I'm on the freeway in Los Angeles, headed for the airport. My plane leaves in 45 minutes and the traffic's moving not 1 inch. I am now fascinated. Now, it doesn't work every time, but every time you can get it to work, better to be fascinated than to be frustrated.
And let's say you missed the plane. Are you still fascinated?
I'm fascinated by my own frustration. That's what I'm fascinated by.
All right. Very good. Now, what would be one of the greatest lessons you have ever learned in your life?
That true values really count, that humans are a special creation. All of the life forms are driven by instinct and the genetic code. A goose can only fly south in the winter because he's a goose. Can't fly any other direction, driven by instinct and the genetic code. But my greatest lesson is that humans are a special, unique creation. We're not like any other life form. We can go north, we can go south, we can go east, we can go west. We can live one way for 5 years and tear up that script and live another way the next 5 years. We are not just driven by instinct and the genetic code. There's something special about human creation. And my study in the possibilities just overwhelmed me as to where people can begin and then finally where they can go, what they can start with and what they can finally become. And to, first of all, I think recognize that is an incredible, exciting adventure. And then if you start working with it, what could I really do if I learned the lessons, adopted the disciplines, read the books, fed on the ideas like bread for my mind? What could I really accomplish? And the stories are always fascinating to us all about where people started, but where they finally ended up, what they finally accomplished, with dangers along the way, of course. But that's what philosophy is all about. Human philosophy is to give us guidance to avoid the dangers and take advantage of the opportunities. And I think that's what seminars are for. That's why I teach like I do, is to help people with a refined guidance system. Number one, to earlier recognize the dangers and to also earlier pick up the opportunities and make something of them. But I'm constantly amazed at the human spirit, human possibilities, people with the most enormous struggling problems still manage to rise above them and do something noble, something powerful, something wondrous. I'm always intrigued by that. And I'm intrigued with myself, how I act like I act, how I respond like I respond. What is this human adventure on the spinning planet? I'm intrigued by all that. But America, nationally, industries, commerce, business, companies, corporations, institutions, education, politics, all the rest, involving human beings, is an intriguing adventure. I think we need to be curious about it, how it works, and how we can best play our part in family, in community, citizen, company, salesperson.
And how do we develop that curiosity? I remember once riding in a car with Larry King, and he asked me maybe 100 questions in a 20-minute ride. As partly, I think, what makes him a good interviewer is he's very curious. He wants to know everything. Well, for the rest of us, how do we develop that kind of curiosity that you talk about?
Yeah, kids have got that curiosity, right? That's why they learn so much that first 6, 7 years. Kids are studying ants, and, adults are walking on them, right? Kids, they don't walk on these ants. I'm studying them. How come an ant can carry something bigger than he is? That kind of curiosity. When I teach communication, I start with that. To be a good communicator, first of all, you've got to have something good to say. And to have something good to say, number one, we need to sharpen our interest. You got to read the paper. You got to read the magazines. You got to know what's going on. Develop an appetite for current events, political events, social events. Part of that's training. And the more you do it, the more you get into it. If you establish that habit pattern, I'm telling you, your interest will start to grow and grow and grow and grow. Next is fascination. Interested people want to know, does it work? Fascinated people want to know, how does it work? Curiosity. Develop an appetite for that. And just start by saying, I'm going to systematically make some inquiry. I'm going to be a better reader. I'm going to listen better. I'm going to search. And start that whole process. And the more you do it, I'm telling you, you'll find something fascinating. That'll lead to something else fascinating. And the first thing you know, you've got this on an upward trend.
Excellent. Now I want to come back to values. You'd mentioned values a moment ago, and a poll just came out in Newsweek magazine which showed that 76% of Americans think that America is on the wrong road morally and spiritually right now. And I think it was Einstein who said, don't aim to become a person of success, but aim to become a person of value. What role do values play in our life, and what role do they play in the success or failure of our lives?
Very important. In talking to teenagers, first of all, I start with money to teach personal development. 1, kids are interested in money. 2, it's easy to count. And here's what I say to my teenage friends. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. Simple statement of economics. It takes time, but we don't get paid for the time. We get paid for the value. Now, since that's true, is it possible to become twice as valuable and make twice as much money in the same time? And the answer is, of course. Could you become 3 times more valuable than you are right now and make 3 times as much money in the same time? And the answer is, of course. Could you become 10 times more valuable than you are right now to the marketplace and make 10 times as much money in the same time? Now, first we're talking money, talking economics. And the answer is, of course. America's a ladder to climb. Starts, let's say, at $5 an hour and goes up to, biggest income last year was $200 million. The guy that runs Disney. Mickey Mouse. Kids relate to Mickey Mouse. But that's the ladder to climb, from $5 an hour up to $200 million. Why would the marketplace pay someone only $5 an hour? And the answer is because they're not very valuable to the marketplace. Now, you got to underline to the marketplace. Might be a valuable brother, yes. Valuable member of the family, yes. Valuable member of the church, of course. Valuable citizen of the country, no doubt. Valuable in the sight of God, of course. We're all of equal value in the sight of God. But to the marketplace, if you're not very valuable, you don't get much money. But now, why would the marketplace pay someone $50 an hour? And the answer is, evidently. Good word. Evidently, they must be more valuable to the marketplace. And you've got to keep underlining to the marketplace. Why would the marketplace pay someone $500 an hour? And the word is evidently. They must be more valuable. Why would a company pay one person $200 million for a year's work? And the big word is evidently. This person must be very valuable. Would a company pay one person $200 million? The answer is yes. If you helped a company make $4 billion, would they give you $200 million? And the answer is, of course. Now then, I say, Mr. Shope taught me how to climb this ladder, and here's what he said. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. When I got that refined bit of economic philosophy, it changed my life. Up until age 25, I worked hard on my job and made a living. Starting at age 25, I worked hard on myself, and I made a fortune. And then I put it in a philosophical phrase. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. What you pursue usually eludes you, like the butterfly you can't quite catch. But if you want to be successful, you must attract success by developing the skills, the temperament, what you now know about the marketplace, goods and services. That's what's valuable. So the key to getting paid well in the marketplace is to become valuable. Now, we must not only be valuable to the marketplace, we must create value for our family. Ancient prophets said, God's arm is not short. Interesting language. Reassuring language. You can't think of anything more pitiful than a God with a short arm. Say, well, God can't reach all the way. His arm's too short. This prophet said, no. His arm is not short. He can reach all the way. God's arm's too short. He can't reach everybody. And this prophet said, no. Let me reassure you. God's arm is not short. He can reach all the way, and he can reach everybody. Well, shouldn't that be said of every father? His arm isn't short. He can reach all of his children. He can reach all the way. This father is not short on vocabulary to illustrate for his children the promise of the future. He's not short on stories and illustrations in articulating the promise, the possibilities, and the opportunities. He's not short on vision. This mother's not short on caring and heart and soul. So value to the marketplace, yes, in terms of economics, but also value to home and family. And then value as a citizen. Let's talk capitalism. Let's talk democracy. Let's talk freedom. Fortunately, we won the Cold War, as General Powell said to us yesterday. But we've got some other challenges now. To become valuable as a leader, to become valuable in articulating the challenge of the future, competing among the nations of the world. We've got our work cut out for us. But it starts at home, being valuable as a teacher. The key is not to just be a teacher, but be a student teacher. Don't just be a salesperson, be a student salesperson. Don't just be a father, be a student father. Don't just be the leader of a company, but be a student leader. Because we're sailing into some sort of uncharted waters the next 5.5 years, getting ready for the turn of the century. And whether it's company, corporation, government, school, community, home, family, office, team, basketball team, baseball team, wherever people gather for whatever reason, if each one brings a better value to that enterprise, to that game, to that family, to that business, to that office, we've got a good chance of competing well among the nations of the world, and who knows what all we can accomplish in the 21st century.
That's tremendous. Now, Jim, you're a person who really does add tremendous value to people's lives. And I know many of our listeners are saying, wow, look at the value you've already added to my life in this short interview. How can they get more from you in terms of value? What kinds of books and tapes and seminars and workshops do you have that they could use in their lives?
Yes, I've got 4 books out there in the marketplace. It was exciting to see my books on the bookshelves in Australia, cross country. That was very exciting. I haven't pushed my books that well in the earlier years, but I do have some books written. I have some cassette tape albums. I have some videos, one especially designed for teenagers. I've got videos designed for the corporate world, company world. So I do have now a variety of products. I'm way behind. I need to develop a lot more, but I'm on track to do that.
Great. And how can they get information on that? Is there a phone number they can call?
I think there's an 800 number.
Let's see here.
I think it's on that brochure.
Here it is. It's 800-929-0434.
Excellent.
Great. Now, I'd like to ask you a couple more questions. What is the most important change that the average person can make in his life?
Starting with something simple. Mama said an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Good question for my audience today. What if that's true? Someone says, well, if that's true, that would be easy to do. But here's the challenge. What's easy to do is easy not to do. What if you should be walking around the block every day for your good health and you don't? You're not on a good track. If you should and you could and you don't, it's called formula for disaster. But self-improvement is called starting with the most immediate thing that comes to your mind that you could do to improve your health, your life, your income, your future. And if it's an apple a day, start there. If it's a walk around the block, start there. If you need to build your personal development library, go get a book and say, this is the next book of my new library. If you need to attend a seminar, go. If you need to keep a journal, Mr. Schoaf taught me to keep a journal starting at age 25. It represents a major part of my library, my own journals, notes that I've copied over the years, little poems I've written down, things that I've gathered that are invaluable to me, my business, as well as my lecturing career. Go get a journal. Start with an apple a day. Walk around the block. You know, it's not going to come in some great package out of the sky. But each little thing you start with called self-improvement, whether it's health or sign up for a class that you've been intending to take and you've put it off, neglect does us all in. Neglect has us by the throat, shutting off air supply, money supply, and every other supply. But if you reverse that process, and it doesn't matter what you start with, just say, I should, I could, I don't. I will now say, I should, I could, I will. And if it's an apple a day, start there. Getting a journal, make an entry. Go get that next book of your thriving library. sign up for a class, and you have now begun the process. And that's all you need to do is begin the process. And the early return from those early steps will inspire you to start taking all the rest.
Now, what about for the people who are movers and shakers? They've already achieved incredible success. They seem to be doing almost everything right, or certainly far better than the average person. What would you say to them?
Everything needs refinement. I've got a good phrase. Everything by longevity tends to get off course. When they make a shot for the moon, the early guidance system doesn't last all the way. They have what they call mid-course corrections. There isn't anything that doesn't need to be looked at fairly often. I've seen more than one person say, hey, I've got plenty of money in the bank, I'm doing well, but some systems are not working. And failure to take a look at some systems that aren't working, you can get faked out by money in the bank. You've got to look at all areas. An ancient script says, the little foxes spoil the vines. And you look at this vineyard and it looks great, but it's got little foxes. And it doesn't matter if it's the president or the government or the senator or the senate or the company or the corporation or a millionaire or a billionaire. All systems need to be regularly checked. The big gambling houses in Las Vegas. Guess how often they draw up a financial profit and loss statement? Several times a day.
They need to.
And the reason is because so much is happening that they can't let but more than a few hours go by before they take another look. And our lives and our businesses are far more valuable than a gambling house in Las Vegas. But what a good lesson. So don't let too much time go by before you take a look. And make sure all systems are working. And if you do it with your health, if you do it wherever you are, if the corporation does it, if the government does it, we'll all be better off for the future.
Now, that's tremendous advice, Jim. Now, in closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our Success Talk listeners?
Well, my privilege to share my story. I promised my mentor before he died at age 49 that I would pass along his ideas. And the only thing I could think of then was in the businesses I was building with my people in my companies. That's where I passed it along. Little did I know back then I was going to step outside my own comfortable business circles and eventually travel around the world and share my story. But I just take great delight in sharing what happened to me in some simple way that might be valuable for someone else. And then I'd love to hear about it. If someone's affected by what I share and present, it's always exciting for me to get that letter, phone call, personal visit that says your ideas made a difference for me. But my last word would be, hey, start with something simple. Keep adding value to your life. And you can do the most extraordinary things. And why not you? If, a boy from the farms of Idaho, and if we had a parade of American success stories here, they would all say the same thing. Why not you? We started with nothing. Why not you? We started behind. Why not you? If we can do it, you can do it. That's my message.
Thank you, Jim. It's a tremendous pleasure and privilege to have you here.